Jesse Ozar here with Jesse Ozar Artistry, Part 2. Today I'm going to go into a little bit more in-depth approach with the underpainting. The first video we had, I discussed how I approached the underpainting. I talked about the wood panel, how I prepare it with gesso, sanding it down, what materials to use to get your transfer drawing, the printout. So if you're just hopping on, go to part 1 and that'll get you up to speed. But like I said, today, part 2, I'm just going to dive into the underpainting and just push this a little bit more. The whole focus on this is just going to be to establish the value. So right now we're working on this guy. So we're making this look more like this. And I'll go into depth as to how I'm going to do that. So let's get started, okay? Okay guys, so we got the layer sitting there, ready to be done too. I'm going to take some of this paper towel here, lint free. I think it's called Vida. V-I-D-A paper towel. And I'm going to take some of this refined linseed oil and I'm going to wet the surface, or at least coat the surface with some linseed oil. This way I'm kind of painting on a wet on wet. It just makes for smoother brush strokes. The surface isn't as tacky as opposed to when you're just painting on a dry surface. That's why painting wet on wet gets you such nice, subtle, and soft transitions and beautiful results. It's because the oil or the layer hasn't dried out yet. It's wet. So you're painting wet into wet, essentially. And that's what's going on with the oil here. When I apply the oil on the surface, it's going to make the brush glide. And then you're going to be able to manipulate the paint much easier. You'll be able to do much more subtle things with it, as opposed to it being just a dry surface. So I'm kind of blending it into the canvas, and what I want to do after that is make sure that there's no excess oil. Because on a smooth surface like this with excess oil or extra oil, the paint honestly is just gonna smear and run all over the place, and that's a pain. And just be mindful, when you do this, you're gonna be removing some of the paint. So you have to make sure that this stuff is dry when you do your next layer. And the good thing about using like a raw umber, burnt umber, this pigment dries really quickly. So you don't necessarily need to use those drying agents. This is 2 days. This is the second day. So I painted, didn't paint, came back, now I'm painting. So I know it's dry. So I'm going to apply some paint here on my wooden palette. Not a whole bunch. Gives you an idea. And once again, I'm going to grab my brush here. It's a Kolinsky flat. These are mainly used for watercolor, but I think they do an amazing job for having a very soft feel when it comes to painting. Let's say you use a brush like a hog bristle. It's tougher. And you're trying to achieve a very soft, brushless finish, like what photorealist artists do, you're not going to be able to get that with a hog bristle. Unless it calls for some type of like raggedy facial hair or something. But you need to have very smooth and soft renderings, brush strokes. And that's only going to happen when you have a really soft brush. So that's why it's important to invest in really good brushes. And that's why, I mean, Kolinsky, yeah, they're expensive, but I mean, they last for a while and they're very smooth. So guys, we're gonna go in here and I'm gonna attack this and just try to push the value even more. That's what we're doing today. So as you can see already, look how much darker this layer is compared to the last one. I mean, we would have been going at this thing all day, and the paint, rather than applying itself, we would have been moving paint all over the place. And here we go. That's why we got this ball sink. So I can kind of put my wrist, not moving any of the paint around. Look at this. Look how much darker we can achieve. But this layer, knowing that the under layer is dry now, so we don't have to move all the paint around. So I'm being aware and taking a step back and looking at the overall value here. So I can see that this is pretty much all the same value. So I'm just going to come in here, do my measure, step back and see exactly where this darkness is starting at, and it looks to be about right here. And I have all these markings that I do with my my underdrawing to kind of help me, to guide me. So just wanted to double check this to make sure that we have the right area. We did. I can honestly just paint. I can just do this, guys. Crazy. Dude, no wonder why Bob Ross kept like talking to himself. I swear. I mean, I know this is my first or second video, but it's hard to keep a dialogue going and coming up with like informative things to say. So you just go. You just keep going. I trusted Kolinsky Sable hand brush here, fan brush. Guys, Rosemary and Company, they do an amazing job with the types of brushes that they have. I absolutely love them. They're so awesome. I mean, I'll say before, Kolinsky, a little expensive, but don't compromise on your brushes. It's really going to show. I mean, you try to save, money, and you get a brush and you think you're doing something smart and saying, well, yeah, you spent all this money on a brush that was something like this. This could run you almost about, this is probably, oh man, this could be upwards of around $40 to $50, guys. But you get a crappy brush, it's getting hair all in your painting, right? And that thing's gonna be dead, honestly, in like 2 weeks. That's $6. You do it again. Before you know it, in about a 5-month time period, you're already down to your third, fourth brush. You've almost already dropped $35, $40. So I mean, do the math. It's better to just invest in a really good piece of equipment in the beginning. That way you don't have to keep on buying all that crap stuff. Okay. So as you can see, the point of this right now was to just keep building up this value. Nice and slowly. We got this eye here. I want to try to hit that. One thing I try to emphasize, guys and girls, when I do this, I am using as little paint as possible. If you use too much paint in the beginning, you're going to find yourself trying to push the paint around, honestly, just to get it off your brush. That's what you're going to be doing. And you're going to be making marks on this canvas that don't need to be made. Whereas if you decided to not put as much, like, look at this. I get my paint all lined up and I kind of move it around and I almost try to dry brush it in a way where I really thin out the paint on my brush. This way I know I have a very controlled amount. So when I go in, put it there, and I'll even wipe it off on this paper towel a bit, and I'll come back down. And I'm doing little bit by little bit. This way, I don't have to push paint around because I have to get it off my brush. This way, you're very controlled, and you know exactly how to manipulate the paint with the brush. Okay, so let's see what we can do with this eye here. Now, I'm just trying to get the basic shape here. This shape. Try to take a look at this eye right here. I think you guys can see that. Let me just check my camera just to make sure. Okay. Let's look at the basic shape of this, the brown portion of the eye. So it's got a basic shape like this. I'm looking at it just with angles. I'm not trying to make the organic shape. I could say it does this, then it does this, then it does that. Right, and you got come down here. These are all angles. I am always looking at angles when I do these preliminary shapes. And that's gonna help, guys, because it's so hard to try to come up with copy abstract shapes. It really is. Just do yourself a favor and just try to get the basic shape of it so it helps you see. And you're gonna have these drawing marks that are gonna help you as you go further into the painting, if that makes sense. So I have these lines here that are gonna help me out. So I'm thinking this line does this. So I'm gonna come here and I'm just gonna paint up like that. I got a mark like this. I'm gonna come up here and I'm gonna just put my line in like that. And the top's off like here, flat line. I'm gonna do the same thing. Now I'm gonna take a step back and take a look. And as I'm looking at this, I can tell I pretty much have the shape set. I would say there's this kind of nice little mound bump at the maybe 11 o'clock portion of the eye like this. It doesn't have to be perfect right now. For those of you who get bored, I apologize. There's I don't know, thousands of videos online that you guys can jump to. But for those of you who are patient, you'll see how patience is the virtue and how you're going to get just amazing results when you don't rush your work. That's when the true magic comes in. Then you can even see it, like watch. See how subtle this right here when you get into this kind of cheek socket of the dog right here. You could see it's whiter here. And it gets a little bit darker in there. It's get a little bit whiter there. I don't go in with a whole lot of paint. What I'll do is I'll come in here. I see this dark spot comes right in line with the outside portion of the eye, which probably sits somewhere right around here. That'll be my guess. And it's probably right at the top of the nose. So we got the top of the nose here. Right on the eye. I'm just gonna make a mark there. Barely anything. What I could do, honestly, if I even felt like it, I might as well just do it. Bring in a new brush. This is like very subtle, but I'll just make a note here that something's gonna be a little bit darker in this area. And guys, I was using a pretty big brush. I can even like use a smaller brush. I got another Kolinsky. This is a 10 from Da Vinci. I like their stuff as well. It's more of a name brand. But every now and then, guys, the thing is with these watercolor brushes, if you're not very delicate with them, they tend to lose their hair, which is kind of a pain because, I mean, like I was explaining before, when you use a crappy brush, they start to fall apart. Well, I mean, the brushes lose their hair. Every brush is going to lose their hair at some point, so I just think it's smart to invest in really good brushes. Okay, so let's see what we got here. I'm going to hop underneath this neck. Okay, let's get that value. Guys, I hope you have questions to ask. I love talking about painting, but I may run out of ideas. It always takes a little bit to get into the swing of painting. You know, if I have a day where I painted, you know, like 6 hours, you know, by the end of that day, I'm like boom, 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 boom. I'm sorry for the curses. I'm flying all over the canvas, you know, just really just accurate with like how my brushstrokes are being laid down, where they're going. It's just like anything. You warm up, you know, I mean, the longer you're at it, the better you're going to be. So in the beginning here, I'm here with my hand, you know, like very tedious. But then the next thing I know, the more warmed up and farther into the painting I am, I swear, the farther my hand comes down this brush. It's just really interesting, and it allows me to kind of take a step back and really look at my painting. If you could see my head, it's 3.5 feet away, as opposed to when you just start out, you're really kind of, okay, you got to be very cautious and gentle with it. That's not the case. You will start to see. Okay, so we got this nice little rim lighting here. So what I'll do there is take my finger. Well guys, one thing, it's so funny how mistakes, they kind of bring up different issues. I don't paint with those latex gloves. I feel that, and I got nothing against them, but my personal taste, it gives my hand a different feel for when I'm painting. And I'm so accustomed to working with no gloves, and when I tried working with gloves, the feel of the brush felt different in my hand, and it just felt odd. I just didn't like the feel of it. So you're gonna know your habits and what you like and what you don't. But the reason why I'm saying this is because for you beginners out there, or even you advanced painters that might not know this, I assume you do, but if you don't, here's a good tip. You have certain paints out there called CAD for short, or cadmium for long. C-A-D-M-I-U-M, cadmium. This is poisonous. You don't want to be getting this stuff in your mouth, or honestly on your skin for that matter. The reason why I said I don't use gloves and I don't use them is because I happen to have a very A-type personality. I really, my workstation for right now is actually a little messy, but I mean, I always clean off my my palette. My paints are always in the same exact place. I'm very methodical in my approaches, and that's the way I'm able to kind of get away with not using gloves. But and you got to be able to admit this to yourself, if you're a sloppy painter, or you're sloppy in life, and you just kind of somehow you go to I don't know, like you're that guy at the restaurant or that girl at the restaurant who's eating food, and all of a sudden you got a stain on your shirt, and you're like, oh, just get on me. If you're one of those people, and it's always happening to me, like my twin brother, I love him to death, but I swear that dude's always got a new stain on his shirt. You should be the type of person that should probably invest in some gloves. And if you don't want to take that route, then I suggest be mindful of what paints you're using, and make sure that you're not getting those cadmium paints on your skin, or for that matter in your damn mouth, because it's not good. It's really not. So I don't know, you got my warning. Okay, so let's see here. So as you can see, guys, the values coming into play. So we got this down here, right? It gets dark underneath that neck right there. And we got some darkness happening under this kind of muzzle. Now, if you guys can't tell already, what's happening here is I'm going light
to dark. So obviously this area, or in the nostrils, I don't need to, put a glob of freaking paint on there, and just hope for the best. Because look what happens. As I put it down, wood panel, you move your brush around, look, it disappears. So there's no point in applying all that paint. Just know when this application or this layer dries, you're gonna come back to this area and you're gonna hit it up. So go bit by bit. So what I like to do is I like to kind of blur my eyes. So I know right here it's dark. It's much darker than what I've got already. So I'm just gonna put the paint in there. The only area that looks kind of light is right here. We're getting some type of like reflective workings here, probably off the neck gobble. Reflective light coming off of a shadow. Let's see if I can get any darker in here. Yeah, see, that's the one thing. Wood panel is amazing for its subtlety, but just know that it's going to take some time to build up, but it's so worth it, guys. I'm telling you, you can get such subtle effects with wood panel. Yeah, a little bit heavier, but it's sweet. And I guess what this does is it teaches you some discipline. It forces you not to go all out. It doesn't. You can't. You can't just put a whole glob of paint, and hope for the best. At least this method allows you to kind of do bit by bit. Just be really subtle with your approach. And you'll learn things as you go along. Now I can tell you already, I haven't really been pushing detail at all, and we're not even on that layer of paint yet, but look how much more realistic this looks than this. That's got to tell you that with some patience, good things happen. And guys, and feel free to kind of go back. I don't know. I'm saying this is easy, but maybe for you, you're still kind of like, whoa, how did he do that? Go back. Like I said, there's no rush, Looking here. I really have developed a nice liking, or a major liking for glazing. Glazing or thin layers of paint has really opened my eyes as to how to approach a painting. When I first started out painting, I guess you could call it wet on wet. That was the belief. You get into a painting, you start, like if I was gonna paint this ear, I would get like a black, some white, probably some raw umber, some brown, mix it in, try to get the hue value chroma nailed, and I'll explain that later on, you don't need to worry about it. But I would try to mix up this local color. And I'd put it on there, and then as I'm noticing the ear, the form is shifting. Just talking about the ear here, how it folds. The light source is coming from behind the dome.